after 2 days, 2.5 days technically, on SB and SV, or Spring Break in Silicon Valley, I by no means consider myself a pro, but I think that these could be some potential pro tips for people who are potentially looking to apply to go on the trip. Pro tip number 1, and something that I actually did myself, is to email the program coordinators and to email people or even talk to people who went on the trip before. So one of the things I did was, when I was initially thinking about applying to SB and SV, is I reached out to Julie Wallace, who works at the iSchool and who has been working with this trip for a few years, and I said, "Hey Julie, my name is Natalie. I'm looking to apply to SB and SV. I think it sounds like a great program. Do you have any advice for me, or do you know the companies that we're going to go visit potentially when we go to the Valley?" And that, you know, just shows that you're taking the initiative to go ahead and already think and plan ahead by emailing them and showing even more that you're interested, because someone who takes the extra initiative to put themselves out there is exactly the student that they're looking to take on the trip. Pro tip number 2 would be to not let your major dictate whether or not you apply to go on the trip. I know I'm a television, radio, and film major with a minor in geography. I have nothing to do with the iSchool, who is the school that technically runs this program. So don't let that be a hindrance at all, because the interests or the things that you're interested in is way more important than your major or anything like that. Pro tip number 3, moving off of the pre-SB and SV application process, when you're actually on the trip, would be to bring comfortable shoes and comfortable clothes. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of walking around from company to company. You go on a few walking tours throughout Silicon Valley and Palo Alto especially. So you want to be wearing things that you feel comfortable in. You don't want to necessarily be rocking a 3-piece suit and 3-inch high heels. I mean, that's totally your own call, but just know that if you have feet that get really tired in heels or flats even, and you get blisters, you're going to be pretty miserable at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind. Pro tip number 4, going along with pro tip number 3, is to dress for the weather. So obviously, Silicon Valley is quite a different climate than Syracuse. So you're going to want to check the weather report for the week that you're in San Francisco to make sure that if it's 60 degrees outside, you're not wearing something that doesn't suit that sort of weather. Also, it tends to rain in Silicon Valley, so make sure that you bring that sort of appropriate dress as well. Pro tip number 5 might seem a little obvious, but it's bring business cards. So you never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to connect with while you're going on these various tours throughout the Bay Area. So if you want to pass along your contact information, you want to make sure that you have that readily available. I would also say to bring a bigger stack of the business cards, just because you don't know if you're going to be passing out a lot of them. So it's better to have too many than to not have enough. Pro tip number 6 is to be engaged and ask questions while you're at all these companies. Obviously, not every company that you visit is going to be directly in line with what you're studying or what you're interested in, but still find things to talk about, because a lot of the times you never know what kind of really good information you're going to get unless you ask those questions. Whether if it's something as simple as, how did you get to where you are in the business today? Pro tip number 7 is to spruce up your social media profiles, especially your LinkedIn profile. It is key that you make these profiles that are very public on point, because obviously if you're connecting with a bunch of people and potentially looking for jobs and internships, you don't want an outdated or a non-existent LinkedIn profile. So make sure that the information is all clear and you proofread everything, your photos are up to date, and you have up to date and pertinent information on all sites. And my last and final pro tip is pro tip number 8, and that would probably be the most important while you're on this trip, and it's to keep an open mind and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like I said, obviously not every company is going to be in line exactly with what you want to do, but that shouldn't stop you from going out and trying to make connections with people. You never know who you're going to run into. I know I've already personally connected with quite a few people on LinkedIn this week already that I never would have guessed that I would have hit it off with. So that just goes to show that you need to keep an open mind and never let the fear of, asking questions or putting yourself out there a little bit more than you normally would shut you down from opening up all these doors that, could potentially be right in front of you while you're on the trip. So I hope that these pro tips helped for the people who are looking to apply to the SB and SB program. I know that I love it as well as my roommates already love it. And I would just say to just apply and don't be afraid to, just submit your video, and don't think it's something that is super scary and daunting because, obviously this should be something that you're passionate about and you just want to make that apparent to the people who are going to be looking over the applications.